I think that's a pretty good look on him. Mask, hat, safety goggles. So yesterday evening, he was out spraying copper on the trees until like 6 o'clock, which here is very, very dark at 6 o'clock.
And cold.
And cold. There was ice on the pond this morning. But it's a beautiful day today, so we thought we might take the opportunity to do a little bit of an orchard tour.
The reason we were spraying last night at this, well, we call this like right after leaf fall, most of the leaves are off, is because for the last 2 years we've had serious attacks from Fireblight, which is a bacterial disease that we did not used to have in this area, but because of rising temperatures, we now have it. If the temperature's in the high 60s during bloom, the bacteria enters the blossoms, enters the tree through the blossoms and then also through the green shoots as the green shoots develop right after blossom. So we had a serious infestation of it starting summer before last. Right here we see what were two quince trees. These little, we got all these suckers coming up, and we're going to try to select one or two of those suckers this winter. You'll be seeing a lot of trees that we've had to cut, prune back very severely because of the fire blight. When you get fire blight, you have to cut it all the way back, like at least 12 inches closer to the trunk than the evidence of fire blight. All right, these are peaches. This row is peaches, and the row behind it are peaches. They are not susceptible to fire blight. So we had a fairly decent peach crop this year, but the weather wasn't the best for peaches.
What makes good peach weather versus bad peach weather?
It's mostly about temperature and moisture combination, how disease, a specific disease, black rot, attacks the peaches during the fruiting season.
So is it possible to have a season that's really good for one fruit and not good for another fruit?
Absolutely. Wasn't good for most things this year, but the grapes did beautifully. The dry weather in the late part of the year means that we didn't get mold or mildew or brown rot on the grapes, so it was a very good year for grapes.
Right.
Okay, we have 3 sour cherries here. You can see some of the disease on these. This is something called gummiosis. It attacks through any kind of wound on the tree. We have a number of things that attack our tree. See these little holes here? That's from a bird called the sapsucker that pecks at them, and then it's a way for the disease to enter. Here you can see one where the disease has just entered. So this tree is probably only going to last another couple of years. This could be a combination of sun scald and the gummiosis stuff. Sun scald is when in the spring, so this is facing southwest, the warm sun from the spring in the spring causes sap to start to rise, and then we'll have a cold night and the sap will freeze and it will
burst it like frozen pipes.
Very much like that, yeah. So here we have a cherry coming up from this is probably coming up from the well, it looks like that might be coming up from the main stalk. So we might be able to cut this off here and get some life out of that sucker.
Is that pretty normal? Are there normally suckers that are coming off that'll let you do that?
Normally what commercial orchards do is dig it out and replant.
Right.
But a sucker like that that's a few years worth of growth, and buying a seedling that size is probably $30 or something like that. So, and then you got to dig a hole and plant it. Another thing about this is it's got a developed root system, so that sucker has a lot more strength than a seedling would, or
So does that mean that in its next period of growth, it'll be able to grow more efficiently, or does
grow
that?
faster,
Yeah.
grow
Okay.
faster. This is a peach. This is one of our older peaches. Again, this is sun scald. So we've got to go do better about protecting our trees from sun scald. One thing they'll do is paint it white so that it doesn't absorb heat. Another thing you can do is put some kind of protector like burlap. They wrap burlap on them. This only bore like this tree used to give us bushels of peaches. Now we probably got a dozen peaches off it, and we'll pull this out this year and replant in the spring. This is a modern apple, bred to be disease-free. I'm not sure of the variety. It might be called Freedom or something like that. These tags are where we attempted to graft some heirloom varieties onto it. These grafts didn't take, unfortunately. The cyan wood was not very vigorous.
So
although it looks like we do have one that did take right here. See this?
So what that means is that you've got heirloom varieties now that are resistant to disease, or at least in a position where they're resistant to disease.
Well, the base of it is resistant to disease, so it will have more disease resistant. But actually, what grows off this, grows off here, this is a clone. So what's growing here is not what's growing here. This is also a clone. All modern apples are clones. Meaning, like, here's a piece of cyanwood. If I cut this off here and grafted it onto a different tree, then this clonal variety would be growing there, and then we would have all the characteristics of this disease-resistant growing. But some disease resistance also comes from the rootstock. But what comes more from the rootstock is growth characteristic in terms of how tall the tree grows. They have dwarf, semi-dwarf, standard are the main ones. The standard is the tallest tree. Dwarf only grows about that tall. This is probably they also have semi-standard. We usually choose semi-standard. The reason we do that is because you see this fencing is to protect against deer, because we have quite a lot of pressure from the deer who come in and bite off all these things. A friend of mine did a study when he was in high school. The family runs an orchard. He shot a deer in the orchard, cut open its belly, and counted the number of fruit buds that were in the stomach of the deer. And it was thousands and thousands of buds. So the deer come in the summer and eat apples. That's not the problem. It's what they do during the winter of eating off all these little buds that are next year's fruit crop.
Only in New Hampshire would you be able to do that as a high school project.
This is a pear tree that was hit very hard with Fireblight. You see this is why they call it Fireblight. It looks like it's been burned almost. I hit it with spray. See the copper on here? I hit it with spray last night because this it will be a spreader of Fireblight. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to tear this out, cut this off down here and try to let one of these things come up, or whether I'm just going to rip it out.
How many trees did you lose this year?
At least 8. This is a crab. Here you're seeing, again, the sapsucker damage. Here, quite severe in here. Now the crabs tend to be a little bit more disease resistant than the dessert apples. That looks like a peach. See the striations in the bark. It kind of gives you the feeling it's a peach, but it's also the form and the way these the branches are and the way they bud. Quite different than the apple there. Compare it. This is a quince. That's a quince. Now you see these? So this has been hacked back because we had so much fire blight on it. Cut, cut, cut. I mean, this tree was 4 feet taller. Cut, cut, cut there. And this is a method of pruning they recommend for fire blight, which they call ugly stub pruning. So when I pruned it, I cut back about a foot past where the fire blight was evident, leaving what they call the ugly stub. And then the recommendation is to come back during the dormant season, which will be in another few weeks. It'll be really dormant, although we still have some green on here.
Oh, it's been a warm fall so far.
Yeah. And then come back here and cut this back further. I don't know, we'll probably take it back down here. The reason they do that is because they think that that the bacteria is still going to be present here after you prune it. So this is more fire blight damage here. So after like the end of June, you're not supposed to trim fire blight, prune out fire blight, because that will stimulate new growth, and new growth has those soft terminal bloods, and fire blight can then attack into those soft terminal bloods.
So you just make the whole thing worse.
Right, yeah. So what they recommend doing is marking it, as I have done here, during the dormant season, I'm going to cut this back down in here somewhere, and down here, and down here. See, there's fire blight on the end of that. And the same thing, that's why the pink is on this one. Sometimes it's hard to tell whether it's fire blight or something else. I think this is not fire blight. Some of this is insect damage. But then over here, this is fire blight. See, if this is last summer's fruit that was attacked by fire blight. Let's see, now here we're into some heirloom apples. The quince is very susceptible to fire blight. The apples, different varieties, are more or less susceptible. This one didn't seem to get hit too badly. This is like a 3-year-old tree. Need to either expand this wire this winter. We'll probably leave this on for the winter and take it off in the spring. Do some little shape pruning in here to improve the shape of it, to open it up so that more air will flow through, and air is important. These suckers here off the sides, these will come off this year. This is another heirloom apple. Dabinet.
French apple?
Yep. French cider apple, traditional cider apple. This tree has a nice shape. It's the pruning we've done on this and the spreaders we've put in it has opened out the crown a little bit, and this will develop it into a nice tree. We might even get a few apples off it next year. Barnett, this is a pear. Now you see the pear wood is a little bit more kind of, how do I describe it, maybe a little more succulent, a little more
waxy, golden.
Waxy. This tree is growing very nicely. It's a little small not to have fencing on it. Probably I hit the fence post with the tractor or something, and because the deer will come in here. These are the buds that the deer will come in and nibble all these guys. Again, you can see the copper on the copper that I sprayed yesterday on these guys.
And that's a spreader?
That's a spreader, yeah. This is a quince, so I think you're starting to get the feeling of the difference between the shape of the quinces. And you see all this ugly stub pruning I've done here. So these guys will have to come back down to here, and hopefully it will take off again with new shoots and not be infested with the Fireblight.
So in reality, though, what that kind of means is that, because those new shoots, if they go on this year, they're not going to be bearing fruit this year.
No.
So in addition to losing 8 trees altogether.
We've lost several years of production by having to cut these trees back so much.
Yeah.
Let's see, I didn't mention that pear is a Perry variety. A type of Perry is like cider, but made from pears. So we have a number of pear trees that are French or English varieties that have been bred traditionally for making pear juice drinks. So I think we have more of the same down here. It's all more of the same.
All right, so we're going to stop there with this video, and we're just going to cut, and there's going to be a second video. And this video is specifically, my dad's trying to make this shot better. He's right, though. So this video is specifically about diseases and the pear varieties and apple and quince varieties and peaches, all the fruit trees that we've got in this orchard. And the next video, we're going to talk about maintenance for them in the fall, what you do for that. So, all right.